Hello everybody and welcome to this Easy 11 Plus live lesson on persuasive essay writing. You might hear that my voice is sounding a little bit strange today. I'm checking the microphone's coming through good so you can at least hear my strange voice. That's because I'm right in the middle of a COVID infection. And so if I can get through to the end of this without losing my voice, we'll have done well. But we've all managed to get through to this week without disappearing in a great column of radioactive dust. So something seems to be going right. Anyway, today I am armed with my Lemsip and my coffee and my water, and so with these useful aids, hopefully I'll survive until the end of this session. Hi Debbie, you're asking for a shout out, and you're the first in there who's appeared in my chat thread here, so great. I'm here because I love you all, and because I can't bear to miss these lessons. Anyway, right, enough about all that, let's get started. And let's start by looking at the essay title, that if you've looked at the worksheet, you'll see that this is the title for the essay for today, appropriately enough, that exams are a waste of time. Do you agree with this statement? Give your personal opinion, backing up your points with examples. Now, of course, a task like this is not testing whether you have the correct opinion. You could argue that exams are a waste of time. You could argue that exams are not a waste of time. It's really completely up to you. You just have to make a good argument that's convincing and that kind of takes the question seriously and thinks about the arguments that you might seriously make for and against this. Now, in fact, if I showed the whole of the essay blurb on the rubric on this page, you'd see it says, hopefully this is obvious to you, that your essay needs to discuss both points of view. So you can't just give a load of reasons why exams are a waste of time without considering what somebody on the other side might think. And at the same time, you can't give lots of reasons why exams are fantastically useful without considering why somebody else might consider that they're a waste of time. Because your best points will always come when you're thinking about the other Poisson's point of view and coming up with your own point of view in response to that. Hopefully that's obvious, but if it isn't, good thing I've covered it there. Now what I'm going to do today is that I'm going to go through this lesson from a student who years and years ago did a writing competition on this title. And this was published, her answer, she's called Gia, and her answer was published in one of my 11 Plus Lifeline essay writing packs as an example that I then go on to discuss in the pack. And I'm going to do that here because there wouldn't be time for, my screen's about to turn off, stop it. There wouldn't be time for me to write an essay from scratch in one of these lessons. It would just bore you to death, so I'm not going to do that. I've taken a good essay that someone's written, an essay that's good but not perfect, and so I'm going to talk about why it's good but why it's not perfect, how it could be made even better, and what lessons you might be able to learn from it so that you can write better persuasive essays yourself. So we got the title here, Exams Are a Waste of Time, and you need to consider both sides of the answer. Roblox, thank you very much for hoping I get better and wishing me a speedy recovery. That's very kind. Kapil, it's your first class. Fantastic to have you here. I hope it turns out to be useful. Thank you for everybody for your good wishes. I can't respond to everybody here. Priyanka says she did a persuasive speech on persuading her headmaster to give the students more holidays. So that sounds great. They're writing a persuasive essay and writing a speech. They're a tiny bit different. When you're giving a speech, you know who your audience are, and you're talking to lots of people in a room. Whereas when you're writing an essay, you're writing it as though there's one person at a time reading it, and you're trying to persuade them. So it's a little bit different. If you're giving a speech, you imagine there are people in the room going, ooh, and at the same time people going, yeah, as you say different things depending on their point of view. And you have to bring those people together and have them leave your speech all agreeing with each other. That's the kind of ideal thing that never happens. Essays, it's more that you're talking to one person really persuasively, and they might have your point of view or another one, you don't know. Someone says I'm blurry. If I'm blurry, that is all. I've got ridiculously fast internet these days, finally. So if I'm blurry, that's probably because of your internet or because your video quality is set too low. So get out to the bottom corner of your video here, next to the subscribe button. Please subscribe, thank you, and like this video. Just above the subscribe button and to the right, there's a little cog. Click on that and there's an option for quality and set that as high as possible, and hopefully I'll stop being blurry. Priyanka is Samika, sorry, so Samika, hello. Right, okay. what was I doing? Where was I going with this? I can't remember. Sorry, I am feeling a little bit woozy and not very focused because I just feel really tired and really ill. So please bear with me if I waffle a bit. Let's get started talking about this essay. So we know the title is Exams Are a Waste of Time. And the first statement here is exams are a waste of time. So that seems as though the writer is already agreeing with the title and saying, yes, I agree with this. Now, if that were what Gia were doing here, it would be a bad thing to do. Because one of the really basic rules, I'll say a lot of things are rule here that are not really rules. They're just really, really, really good guidelines when you begin writing essays. Once you're experienced at writing essays, you can break virtually all the rules I'm going to give you today, okay? Once you're experienced, once you've got control over what you're doing on the page, you can ignore all this stuff depending on what you need to do in a particular situation. But the rule here that she's breaking is you should never ever give your point of view until the conclusion. Okay, and that's a really good rule to live by for the moment, and I would strongly recommend it. So you should always do things like saying, some people would say that. On the other hand, you might say that. It could be argued that. A counter-argument would be, and that kind of thing. Keep a little bit of distance between yourself and the point of view that you're giving. Because otherwise what's going to happen, almost always when someone starts giving their own point of view, is they say, I think exams are a waste of time. And then when they start considering the other point of view, they say, exams are not a waste of time because, and you think, whoa, are you two people? Can you have these two completely contradictory points of view? You cannot, it is not possible. You are exploding. Don't be that person. Stay away from your point of view and talk about what different people believe or might believe, and don't bring yourself into it until the conclusion where you bring together the arguments that you've made. You're being a squeaky as my voice. You bring together the arguments that you've made and say what you think and why based on what you said in your essay. So it looks like Gia has begun by saying exams are a waste of time. Many people would consider this statement to be false. No, she's talking about what lots of people would believe. So all she's done is copy out the title in her first line. That is a bad thing to do. Do not do that. Do not repeat the title. Okay? It's a waste of time, it's a waste of space, and it's confusing because it might suggest that you agree with it, as here. Simply begin with, many people would consider this statement to be false. So I think that's reasonable. I think that probably most people who are involved in preparing for exams, on some level, think exams are not a waste of time, at least to the extent that you think it's worth preparing for them because you want to get into a certain school. So it's probably right to generalise that at least with this audience, most people would consider it to be false, or many people certainly true. But my opinion is slightly ambivalent. Okay? I think that's really good. First of all, ambivalent is a very good word, and it's a very precise word. It means kind of wavering, kind of could go either way. My opinion is slightly ambivalent. Okay, so she hasn't said I agree or I disagree, which would be bad things to do, but she has said I can see strengths on both sides. That's fine. That sets you up really well to consider both points of view reasonably. I believe that this depends on the candidate and the standard of the paper, not anything else, and I will now elaborate on my point of view. Okay, so some of this is fantastic. So I believe this depends on the candidate and the standard of the paper. These are really, really good points. This is doing something that you should all do in your essay introductions, which is trail your main points, okay? So the easiest way to do this, which is not quite what Gia's done here, but the easiest way to trail your points is in your introduction to briefly mention the strongest point on the for side of the argument and the strongest point on the against side of the argument. On the one hand this, but on the other hand that kind of thing, because that means that your introduction is not just saying I'm going to write an essay, but it actually starts giving the reader an idea of what your essay is going to do, how you're going to approach this, and what the main arguments are they need to look out for, which will help them to understand what you're doing as the essay develops. Gia's done something similar but a little bit different. She hasn't given the main point of view on each side of the argument for and against. Instead, she's just given the two main criteria that she's going to explore. So the two main ways she's going to look at this are thinking about the candidate and how being a different person can affect whether exams are useful for you or not. Sorry if my coughs are exploding the microphone. I should turn the microphone off. Probably when I cough that would be better, but anyway, if I get there in time. So these two things will come up. Now, the disadvantage of doing this, of saying it depends on the candidate and the standard of paper, is that you need to have a good plan before you do this. Because if you say it depends on these things, and these are then not the main things that you talk about in your essay, that is a disaster, okay? So if you say in your introduction, I'm going to mainly talk about this and this, you must mainly talk about this and this, okay? Otherwise, your essay is already a mess. And I will now elaborate on my point of view. That means I am now going to write an essay. That is not a good thing to do. Don't write anything that means I am writing an essay. Of course you're writing an essay. That's what you're doing. That's why somebody's reading it. That's why they're marking it. I'm also not convinced by not anything else here. It depends on the candidate and standard paper. Okay, fine. Not anything else. What really, is she really saying that nothing else could be relevant here? Really? I mean, that doesn't sound convincing to me at all. Don't go too far in making your points. Just say what you know to say. Okay, and then go on. Annabelle says, can I please have a shout out? I really love your work. Here's your shout out. So if I miss people's shout outs, I'm mainly looking at the screen talking about the essay. I'm mainly not looking at the chat. But Strawberry Clouds. Robert, I have homework to write about opinion. What topic should I write about? I don't know. Presumably the homework task gave you some idea of what topic you should write about. I don't know. If you just write about any opinion you pick, don't ask me. Do you want me to hold your hand while you write it? Honestly. Come up with your own topic if that's the job. Okay, so this is it's a really good introduction, but we can shave a lot of it off. So what we're left with is, many people would consider this statement to be false, but my opinion is slightly ambivalent. I believe that this depends on the candidate and the standard of the paper. Or it might say the candidates and the standard of the paper. I think it's a comma though. Yeah, that's fine. That's all you need. It's a really short introduction, but short is fine because that means you can get in to the main part of the essay. So let's do that. Let's get into the main part of the essay here. Terrible thing's going to happen knowing me is I'm going to turn the microphone off to cough, and I'm going to forget it to turn back on, and it's just going to be me talking into space like this and people in the comments saying, I can't hear you, I can't hear you. It has happened before. Writing exam papers is an advantage when the candidate can cope with time pressure and is motivated and enthusiastic. Okay, so that's really clear, and it's a really good topic sentence. Okay, an important phrase I'm going to use a few times today, I think. Topic sentence, it's a way of saying that's the first sentence in your paragraph, and it very clearly says what your paragraph is going to be about. Okay, so I know that this paragraph is, hopefully, going to be about how writing exams can be an advantage for you, how it can help you, how it can be a positive thing. Now, whatever your topic sentence is, your paragraph has to do that. Okay, a paragraph in an essay, it's like a box. So a box, it needs to have a really clear label on the top that says what it is. That's your topic sentence. Writing exam papers is an advantage. It needs to have a really clear bottom that makes it clear that the box has a bottom and stuff is not going to fall out of it. In other words, there needs to be a clear sense of where the paragraph is ending and why, that doesn't just splurge into the next one, that it isn't just a random paragraph break. So it needs to have a clear top with a label, a clear bottom that ends the paragraph, and it needs to have one clear kind of content that matches the label. So a paragraph shouldn't be doing a million different things, and everything in the paragraph should fit with the label on top of the box. Okay, so a paragraph in an essay, it's like a box. So Robert Lomax's special analogy. I hope it's useful. When the candidate, so it's also already, what I like about this essay is a lot of detailed thought. It doesn't make things too complicated, but it shows that Gia is really thinking about the issue. It's an advantage when, under certain conditions, when the candidate can cope with time pressure and when they're motivated and enthusiastic. So if you have those qualities, then exams might be a good thing for you, according to Gia. This way, they will learn from their mistakes, know how papers are usually set out, and generally benefit from this. Okay, now I'm just going to give you a second. Can anyone in the comments tell me what common logical or rhetorical mistake Gia makes in this sentence? Can anyone put it? Okay, about 5 seconds for someone just to write the 2 words that will say what her mistake is here. Dum bum 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 bum. No, nobody's there. Okay, the mistake here is that this is a really clear example of something called circular reasoning. Okay? Because what Gia is basically saying here is that exams are useful because they teach you how to do exams. But the thing is, that only matters if exams are useful. Because if exams are a waste of time, then there's no point learning how to do them, is there? So it's an argument that just goes in a circle. The second thing is only true because of the first thing, and the first thing is only true because of the second thing. So it doesn't actually have any basis at all. It's just a wheel that keeps on spinning. Exams are useful because they help you to do exams, because exams are useful, and they will help you to do exams because exams are useful. And that's all that's happening here. So there isn't actually any real logic in this statement. And this turns up in so many people's essays, examples of circular reasoning. Look out for it. You may spot examples. You'll spot examples from politicians. You'll probably spot examples from your parents as ways they persuade you to do things. Because I say so is often an example of circular logic. Something you may have heard from time to time. Something I may have said from time to time. Anyway. However, this is not the only condition that applies to writing exams well. If it says not the only conditions, that's a mistake. If the S has been scribbled out, it hasn't been very well scribbled out. So this is a slight handwriting issue here. I must say the one thing that Gia's handwriting does illustrate, it's not the most beautiful handwriting ever, but it is generally really clear to read. And it is much more important that your handwriting is clear to read than that it's beautiful. I'd much rather have clear, messy handwriting or clear, ugly handwriting. I'm not saying it's ugly, but I'd much rather have clear, ugly handwriting than unclear, beautiful handwriting that's all. This applies to writing exams. The pace must also be up to a good standard and level to be of any worth. And if it is ludicrously simple, it will not do any good in the examinee's later life. The apostrophe, I think it's been fudged a little bit, maybe because she wasn't quite sure where to put it. It's the later life of the examinee, which is one person, so the apostrophe should be between the E and the S just there. Anyway, that's a relatively trivial point. I spoke about how the paragraph needs to be a box with a clear label at the top, and the content should match the label. And I'm not sure how closely this bit matches the label. This is about whether the paper is of a good quality and a good level. And the top of this paragraph is really about the candidate, whether they're motivated and enthusiastic, whether they're good at dealing with time pressure. And that's a little bit different. So I feel the paragraph here has wandered a little bit off topic. And you can look at this problem from another point of view. So writing exam papers is an advantage, or can offer certain advantages, maybe I would say. So we need this paragraph to tell us what the advantages are. Well, what have we got? We've got that they'll learn how to do exams, which is it's a bit null as a bit of logic because it's circular, as I've explained. And then we've got some other stuff about how the papers need to be in order for you to do the exam well. This paragraph doesn't actually list the advantages that a candidate can get. Okay? So be really careful with your topic sentences. Whatever you say at the top of the paragraph, your paragraph needs to do it. Just as whatever you say you're going to do in your introduction, your essay must do it. Okay? Really important. Good question from Nilima Datla, I apologise if that's mispronounced, in the comments. Robert, what does discursive mean? Because discursive writing is one of the things that I've used as a title for this. That's just because some people look up discursive writing. Really, it means writing persuasive essays, basically. It comes from the word discourse. Discussion over a topic, basically. Discursive writing is writing that discusses something, considering different points of view, essentially. It's not really a term that I use, but some people do, so I've included it in the blurb for this lesson. Okay, anything else I wanted to say about this? So it's a well-written paragraph in many ways, but it's not clear what the advantages or benefits are. There could be some clearer examples to give advantages. And so one thing that I think is so often a really good basis for writing a good essay is just coming up some really clear examples that you talk about. Okay, so for example, you might say, pulling something out of the air, you might say that one advantage of learning to do exams is that you learn to do other things where there's pressure or there's time deadline later in your life better. So for example, you might say that learning to do exams teaches you to effectively respond to work deadlines as an adult, for instance. And you might give that example, you might give an example of why that might be useful and how it could help you in your job, in your career, something like that. And that would be something you could talk about that would clearly show an advantage of learning to do exams, just as an example. So think of examples, stay focused on what you've said you're going to do and do that thing. Just like if you're doing comprehension, the question tells you to do something, you need to do exactly that thing and not something else. On to the next. However, if the participants cannot manage their time well, cannot is one word, I think this is slightly fudged. I beg your pardon, sorry, terribly sorry. I'm not well. However, if the participants cannot manage their time well, or if they become stressed or unsettled under a timer, I feel that for them writing exams will not be a benefit for them. For them, we need one for them. Thank you very much. Them for writing exams will not be a benefit. Okay, I think this could be a little bit less wordy. If the participants, I would say, for example, now that still means cannot manage their time well, but it just doesn't take as much space in the essay. If the participants become stressed or unsettled at the time, for them writing exams will not be a benefit. Okay. It is an unfortunate situation when this recurs. Yes, that's a bit obvious. Maybe those words aren't necessary. And when anyone is involved in the child's education, parents, tutors, teachers, etc., know their potential but are unable to grade them accordingly due to their exam results. When this occurs, the child's education knows, okay, anyone, we're talking about any one, the clue's in the word one, we're talking about a single, but any one person knows, singular, their potential, but are unable to grade them, knows their potential, but, better to say, but is unable to grade them. Knows their potential, but is unable to grade them accordingly due to their exam results. Okay, apart from this, very elegantly put, just slight grammatical mistake. So, very clear point, I'm sure you understand. So, someone who's not good at exams, they might be really bright, merely talented, they can't do exams well, and so their teachers have to give them the end of the year grade from their exam, even though they'd like to give them a much higher grade because of what they can actually do outside exams. So that's the kind of situation. I'm sure you know people like that. Maybe you're somebody like that, who you don't normally show yourself at your best in an exam under time pressure. And so it's a skill that you kind of learn unwillingly. Many people like that. Unfortunately, the world being as it is, you still need to learn to do exams. For this reason, I believe that a new way of grading children like these should be grading children like these should be introduced. Such as, so I really like this, because what's going on here is that Gia is saying, here is the problem. So we've got the certain category of person, people who become stressed, okay? People like this who become stressed in exams often don't show their full potential. A really well-made point there. And then she does something. This is one of the reasons I picked this essay to talk about, because I think what happens now is really, really impressive. Because she says, so I think we need a different approach. We need a new way of grading children. So this is now her thoughts are coming in. I said, save your opinion until the conclusion. She's brought us in a little earlier, but she's done it very well, so that's fine. You can break the rules if you break them well. A new way of grading children should be introduced. Okay, that's already excellent. And then she actually gives examples, such as judging on a more holistic approach, come back to that, such as observing the child's ability to comprehend the subject, not by assessing their general performance in class. Now, whether or not you actually agree with the suggestions here, what Gia's done here is absolutely brilliant, because she's identified the problem, and then she's come in and said, and this is a solution to the problem, and here are some really specific examples of how that solution might work. The solution is a new way of grading. The really specific way to do this is watch them in class, and the teacher should have a greater role in assessing their performance. Now, you could debate whether this works. In my opinion, the way that GCSEs and A-levels were handled earlier during the coronavirus pandemic. I've got coronavirus now. I'm so 2021. I'm just always out of date. Anyway, the way that the grading was handled during the pandemic was, in my opinion, a complete disaster. Or you could use a ruder word than that, and perhaps illustrates why teachers issuing their own grades is more of a problem than a solution. That's my opinion. Gia obviously may have a different one. You may have a different one. But it's a really, really well-made point, and I like it very much in this essay. And as I was saying before, normally you would save your opinion for the conclusion. But I think the way it's been done here, I think it works really well. I've got no problem with it. The only problem I do have, judging on a more holistic... Now, holistic does come from the word whole, and the word whole does begin with a W. But confusingly, because English is a stupid language, the word holistic actually doesn't have a W. Would not blame you for making that mistake. It's completely illogical spelling. More holistic. Judging on and what? Do you judge on an approach? No, you judge using a more holistic approach or on a more holistic basis. Okay, that's the word that she's looking for. On a more holistic basis. B-A-S-I-S. Such as observing the child's ability to comprehend the subject or by assessing their general performance in class. Another thing I really like about this essay is the way that it's got some fantastic vocabulary, like comprehend the subject, assessing their general performance in class, but it isn't sort of fancy showing off vocabulary. She's not using way out there words to try and show off how clever she is. She's using the right words really specifically in a way that it just sounds really good. It sounds really mature, holistic, comprehend. These are the best words to use, and so they sound right. If the participants become stressed, what was another one? It was the examinee in the examinee's later life. Full of things like this. Absolutely terrific vocabulary, because she isn't writing about sesquipedalianism. She's just using really good words, even though they're relatively simple, and that is how you do it. Right, and now we come to the conclusion. This is my personal viewpoint on if exams are an advantage. Okay, I do not like the English here. Saying how elegant our English is. This is not an example of elegance, so my throat is not feeling very elegant. Give me a moment. Oh, and I need to blow my nose. Okay, microphone off. Oh, and I remembered to turn it back on again. Amazing. Right. This is my personal viewpoint on if exams are an advantage. This is my personal viewpoint about whether exams are an advantage or merely wasting precious time. Are they an advantage, noun, or merely wasting, or merely a waste of? Okay? This is my personal viewpoint about whether exams are an advantage or merely a waste of precious time. Okay. So this is another of these statements that reads a little bit like, just checking if my notes haven't missed anything important, that reads a little bit like, I have just written an essay, and just as looking at the introduction, I will now elaborate on my point of view, was a bit like saying, I will now write an essay. This is my personal viewpoint about whether exams are an advantage or merely... That's saying, I have now written an essay. We know that you've written an essay, and it's a very good essay. You don't need to say so. Get into making your points, and don't waste time doing the I am writing an essay stuff. In some cases, exams will be an advantage to the candidate, and in others, they will not. And that is why I believe a new way of grading kids should begin. In terms of using good vocabulary, this is not bad English, but I would say maybe like should be adopted, should be introduced, should be investigated, something like that. What exactly does she mean by begin? It could mean a lot of different things, but not a big problem, and it is not wrong. It's just a moment where you could write something slightly more elegant, I suppose. Apart from that, this is really good. So, yeah, it's a bit of a summary, and then it says, and my conclusion is, not that I come down on either side exactly, but that because it doesn't suit because exams do not suit everybody, I think we need a different approach. And that is fantastic. That's a really good way to answer the question. It's really intelligent. It directly deals with what's at the top. So the question is, are they a waste of time? And Gia's answer is, not entirely, but they aren't fair. And therefore we need to do something else. And that is great. Now, how could this conclusion be better, apart from not repeating what the essay is about? The main thing is, it could draw in some points from the rest of the essay. So in some cases, exams will be an advantage to the candidate. For example, where they prepare them for the world of work. And in others, they may not, particularly if the candidate is somebody prone to stress and timing problems. This is why, you see, that's much better, because that's brought in a point from the essay for each side, for each point of view, and just briefly mentioned them in the conclusion to show you're bringing the ideas together, and therefore, I believe a new way of grading kids should be adopted. So that would be slightly better. So this is not a perfect essay. It's a really good essay. It would get a very good mark, but it could get an even better mark if the things I've spoken out were introduced. I'm going to summarise some of my points about the essay in a second. I'm just going to jump into the comments on what people are writing. Do you focus on Chelmsford County High School, Robert? I think that's a CSSE school. I've got loads of resources for the CSSE. Look at in 11 Plus Lifeline, I've got loads of CSSE stuff. And I've got various of my videos are very relevant. I've even got some specially for the CSE. Capel Gadley, writing in the comments, can we actually start writing? I'm bored. If you listen to me at the beginning, you'd been clear, I'm not writing in this lesson. I said I'm not going to write an essay in front of you because it will take forever and that will be really boring for you. But you seem to be bored because I'm not writing an essay in front of you. There's no pleasing people. No pleasing people. No, I'm not going to do that, sorry. I'm just going to summarise my points about this essay. The idea is that you can then take the things that I've discussed in this essay and use them to help you write a really good essay on that topic in the worksheet that I've provided. The worksheet you can print it out in the video description. If you either haven't found this boring and found it useful, or if you found it so boring that you want other people to share the pain, please tell all your friends about this video. Tell your friends about the channel so that as many people as possible have the chance to access these free 11 Plus lessons and hopefully benefit from them. Yeah, that's the best way to say it. Yeah, spread the pain. Share easy 11 Plus. Right, let's summarise some of the things I said about this essay. Let's pop into the main camera view just to break things up. Whoa, radical. So, yeah, really good intro and conclusion, but could lose some of the extra words and the kind of stuff that says, this is going to be an essay. I have now written an essay. This essay is about this title, okay? You shouldn't include any of those things because the reader knows what the title is. They know you're writing an essay. They know you're going to talk about this. They know you have spoken about this. Don't waste time on those things. Just talk about the arguments. Yeah, it was clearly and effectively argued, mostly. I like how she took a pretty potentially complex argument here along the lines of, well, it depends on the person, so actually we need a kind of different solution to this, not just exams or not just we love exams or we hate exams. What's a different way of kind of assessing people? Yeah, so that could be really complex, but actually I think she made it really simple by having a really clear structure. So plan your essay, have a really clear, simple structure, and that will enable even your more complex ideas to shine through. Magic. Beware of circular arguments. Don't say writing exams is useful because it teaches you to write exams. Okay? Because if exams are not useful, it wouldn't matter whether you learn to write exams. So it's circular logic. Look out for that kind of thing. I love how people are meeting each other in the comments. Someone saying, oh my god, I may go to Chelmsford County High. Someone says, do you mean Medvedev? No, do you mean Red Velvety? I've got Russians on the brain. Do you mean, I don't know what that's about, Red Velvety. Robert Lomax, please may you send me the examples for the essays. Well, first of all, I've just been through an example for this essay, so am I going to send it to you? No, you've got to watch this video. If you want more examples for essays, then you need to sign up to 11 Plus Lifeline. Signing up for 11 Plus Lifeline can be really, really, really cheap at the basic level. So have a look at the link in the video description for 11 Plus Lifeline. If you go there, sign up there. It can be as little as £8.59 a month. And you'll get all kinds of stuff like this with loads of examples and blah, blah, blah. So that's how to get them. Topic sentences. Don't forget to do exactly what the first sentence in your paragraph says. It's great to have a ready first sentence, but then you have to do what it says. Just as whatever you say in your introduction, you have to do in your essay. So that's why planning is important. In general, this essay could have more examples, more evidence to back up its ideas, as I mentioned. Just even short examples that you then talk about. Don't give long, complex, worked out examples that will waste time and space. You don't have much. And the last thing to say is I guess it's squeaky. Some horrible things happening in my larynx as I squeak. See how a really good essay answer doesn't actually have to be especially long, and this This essay, it's only just over a page. It's like a page and a quarter. I normally say a page and a quarter to a page and a half is kind of perfect. This is the short side of that, and that's absolutely fine. You don't need to write loads. If you're writing less than a page, or if you're just writing a page, you are a little bit on the short side. But beyond that, you don't need to write a load more. And they were the main things that I wanted to say about this. It's a wonderful essay, but with things to improve. Great. Okay. I'm very quickly going to go to the... So, my tip of the week is a topical tip of the week. So I'm suffering from COVID at the moment. I have not been very productive for the last few days. I've been doing things like lying on the sofa and sleeping and staring at my computer screen, trying to do some work and not really achieving it. This kind of thing happens. You might not be ill, but just sometimes you get into a mood where you don't work very well. You know that you should do your 11 plus practice. You know you should be doing extra homework, and it's just not happening. Sometimes this happens, and my tip of the week is be kind to yourself. You can't always be super productive. You can't always be somebody who gets up in the 5 in the morning, works for 3 hours before lesson, before breakfast, goes for a run, comes back, makes £1 million with your world-changing business before 10 in the morning. You can't always be that person. So if you have times when you're a little bit off and you can't study too hard, say to yourself, it's okay, I'm going to relax about it, I'm not going to stress, I'm not going to beat myself up, and perhaps tomorrow will be better. And as long as you aren't saying that to yourself every single day, you'll probably find that it enables you to be a lot less stressed and to revise for your 11 plus a lot more effectively than you otherwise would. So that's my tip of the week. Be kind to yourself, even if you don't have COVID. Okay, I'm now very briefly going to take your questions, but I'm not going to spend too long on this because my voice is getting really tickly and I'm kind of struggling. So I'm just going to take a few questions. LOHP Pencil, you want to shout out? Here's your shout out, H for HB Pencil. HB Pencil. Helmina says, what page in the book is it? I don't know. What page in the book is what? What were you talking about? Which book? Why? What do you want about? Do you mean this exercise? It's from 11 Plus Lifeline, which is not a book. You get these things each week if you sign up. This is not from one of my writing books, if that's what you're asking. My writing books are all colourful and full of like pictures and diagrams and so on. I'll pull the microphone up nearer to my mouth so I can talk really quietly, which will save my voice a bit. Okay, can I have some advice for GL English, such as identifying mistakes in a sentence regarding punctuation or grammar? Again, actually, in 11 Plus Lifeline, there are some GL English papers that have the identify mistakes exercises in. I think the most important advice is to get you, I say this a lot for so many things, to get used to reading your work aloud, okay, or reading the sentence aloud. Obviously, in the exam, you can't do this. When you practice, read aloud and hear the punctuation. I've done a video on punctuation a few weeks ago. It's I think it's one of my most useful videos, so I just encourage you to watch it. It's about how you can learn how to punctuate by reading your work aloud and listening to the different kinds of pauses. And you'll find if you take that into your exam, by the time you practiced it lots and lots and lots in your own time, when you get to the exam, you'll be able to read aloud in your head without actually making a noise. You'll be able to hear the words. You'll also be able to spot spelling mistakes, because if you've learned good phonics at school, you'll be able to hear the sounds of the different syllables as you read it. So, for example, such as identifying mistakes in a sentence regarding... You'll hear that kind of syllabic reading a bit sometimes, and that will help you to spot spelling issues. Just as reading more naturally, can I have some advice for GL English, such as identify mistakes in a sentence regarding punctuation or grammar? That more natural way of reading will help you to spot where the full stops and commas should go. All these people asking for shout-outs. Shouting is absolutely the last thing I'm going to be doing now. But Cutie Cat, in the comments, you can have a whisper out. So this is a whisper out for Cutie Cat in the comments. Fusani says, what's a shout-out? It's when I say hello to the person whose name it is and they feel very special and loved. That's a shout-out. Good question. Piali, good question, says, what marks would I give to this essay out of 20? It really depends on the mark scheme, but it feels like something that would be worth something like, I think at least 17, maybe 18. Probably, yeah, I think for the quality now, I think it might, for an M plus essay, I think it's probably worth about 18 out of 20, which is 90%. It's a really good essay, but it's got some problems. I've already answered the Yale English question. Priyanka, how should we prepare for the 11 plus when you only have a year? Well, you say only have a year, but a year is a really good length of time for 11 plus preparation. As long as you already have decent basics. If you've got really good times tables, your spelling and grammar and so on are decent, you've got some experience of story writing, that kind of thing. In terms of practicing the exam skills, how do you answer 11 plus maths questions? How do you do comprehension? All that kind of stuff. Learning reasoning. You can do all that in a year, no problem at all. So don't stress. If you've got a year, that's just fine. Just work steadily. Don't overwork. Just work consistently. Keep track of your progress. Keep topic lists, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's fine. Could you go through some of the C-section St. Paul's Girls in another video? Yeah, certainly. I've already done a bit of that. Actually, there's a video on hard sequence questions, which goes through a C-section St. Paul's Girls question. Actually, you can find that on my channel. It's got a picture of the two terms in a sequence, and little me is sitting on top of each of them, so you can spot the cover image from that. Paul Wellington, what's your favourite subject? Oh, right now my favourite subject is sleep, definitely. Sleep is my favourite subject at this moment in time. What is your favourite football team? Ask Ivo Nikolov. I never really got into football. Heretical to say. I just don't really care when it's international competition. Then I get into following England. And then when it's not, I don't care whether Manchester United beats Manchester City or not. Or gets thrashed by Manchester City, as happened the other day. See, I do at least know that. I know a little. I know a reasonable amount about football because read the newspaper and so on. But I'm not really very interested in who wins. Strawberry Clouds wants a whisper out. I already mentioned your name, Strawberry Clouds. Why do you need a whisper out now? Brinda, how do you write argumentative? That's literally what I have been talking about during this lesson. Rewatch it. Okay, we're coming to the end here. HB Pencil kind of says, do not push yourself, Robert. Yeah, I'm whispering more and more quietly. What is the difference between balanced argument and essay? A balanced argument is what you will do within an essay. A balanced argument is what you have inside your essay, I hope. That's not a dictionary distinction, but I think it's probably the practical one you need now. Okay, all these questions about synonyms and antonyms or comprehension and that kind of thing, then just watch the relevant videos. I mean, Arnav has said, what tips would you give for inference comprehension? Not watch your video. I mean, no, that is my advice. Watch that video. I've got videos about that exact thing, so why would my advice not be watch the video? Why would I redo the video now? Some people ask the most ridiculous questions. So yeah, sounds better when I snort, when I'm all a bit bunged up, or disgusting. I don't know, one of the two. Right, enough. I'll finish with this. What's your favourite book genre? I mean, I love all kinds of books. All sorts of kinds of books. But what do I just read for myself? Loads and loads and loads. This is going to horrify some people. Definitely science fiction. I read a vast amount of science fiction, way more than anything else. There you are. I am not as sophisticated as you perhaps thought. Right, okay. I think I'm going to call it a day there, as the music cuts in the background. Clever. When this video goes up, not if you're watching it live, you will see that another video comes to be linked here, so I suggest you watch that next if you want to continue your learning. Please tell your friends about this channel, encourage them to come and watch Easy 11 Plus, especially because sometimes I'm not whispering and you can actually hear what I'm saying. It's been fantastic to have you here today. Please subscribe to this channel and please like it, but the main thing, please bring your friends along, drag them along. Tell everybody about it so they come and join us in this channel. Thanks, it's been wonderful to have you here, and I look forward to seeing you again, hopefully when I am healthy next week. Bye-bye.